The chief told me it's like if the United States was conquered and you knew there was a constitution and you knew the first words were "we the people," but you had nothing else. And that's what it was like to them, because all their history and all their culture was verbal. And so when they pushed them out of they had a lot of nutrition problems and whatever, and there was over 15,000 died. We forced them to change religions, dress like us, go to our schools, and they lost their tongue. And for any sovereign nation to be sovereign, they have to have their own language. So in 1998, our federal government finally said, all Native Americans, you can govern yourself. Well, they had to learn how, and they're still learning. But you might get one paragraph about the Osage, or just a tidbit, and you're scratching your head. It's just no comprehensive study of them, much. I finally found some, and I went to museums and talked to culturalists, and they say, well, we think, we maybe, and it was unbelievable. Dennis was the first man right here that I presented it to, and I told Dennis, I said, it's got to go here, and he said, well, we can't put it here, this belongs to the MoDOT. And so we talked to Bob Baldwin, our city commissioner, or planner, and he said, well, I'll call the commissioner, and he called Preston, our commissioner, and Preston got mad at him for calling. He says, hey, we got a contract, you can't build no monuments, no fountains, no flowers, no signs, nothing on the property. So he says, well, let me tell you what I want to do. And he told him, and Preston said, I think we can change that contract. My wife's full-blood Osage. My name's Glenn Tutterow, and I'm from Cuba, Missouri here. Born and raised in Sullivan, so I didn't go too far in life, except to today.
And what gave you the idea to do all of this, and how did it get started?
Well, I've always been interested in the Native American plight that's happened in the state of Missouri, and since a young child. But about 5 years ago, I had a very vivid dream, almost a vision. And I got up that morning, was done a sketch of it, and told my wife, someday I'm going to do a massive sculpting. And 3 years later, I presented it to the city, and it took off. We had some people immediately jump on the dream and took it, and we offered it to the Osage. I said, I don't want to do it unless it's culturally correct or they approve it, because I don't want to offend them anymore, and they've already been offended. And so it took about 7 months to get through that, because they were skeptical, because they didn't understand why anybody would reach out to them. And we was able to do that, and because we did, there's a relationship that has been built off of that the chiefs told me they've been looking for 200 years.
Wow, that's amazing. Congratulations, it is beautiful. And it's a great day for Cuba.
It is, and that's what I want it to be. My desire out of the whole piece is to honor the Osage, but also to stimulate and to inspire younger people to try something, have a dream, have a vision, and just try it. And because you'll be surprised how many people will jump on board with you and help support you. And I've had so much support in this town. It's just unbelievable how they've come together and have one common goal. And because of that, we have become a relationship with an entire nation of people. And we don't know the end. This is just the beginning. We're excited about it.
Oh, it's been a blessing, yeah. Ever since I think I made 6 contacts with him to start with, and he hung up every time. So once we got Johnny Williams, then things started to go forward, and they asked us what we wanted to do, and we told them what the plan was. But the key was Glenn had the sculpture developed into a clay model, and they were able to come and see actually what we were going to build. And of course, when you're working with the Osage, you can't be too sensitive, because they change everything to make sure it's absolutely legitimate. It has to be perfect. But we had already resigned ourselves that we were going to do this thing perfect. And with Glenn, it just turned out, because we're fine. You tell us what you want, we'll do it that way. And Glenn's been super to work with. And so my only question to Glenn when we started was, can you do this? And Glenn says, sure I can. That's it. And I said, you do it and I'll raise the money. And so I raised the money. And the great thing was, the money was raised here locally. Over $300,000 we raised for this project. And how long did this take us? 2 years?
It was 2 years, almost to the day.
Yeah, and then we also brought in programs for our 4th graders that we're now teaching Osage language. We're changing letters back and forth. We're telling them about the history of Missouri, and then in turn we learn about their history as well. So we have a
seed bank also.
Oh, yeah. In my little garden over here, those are seeds that were over 200 years old, the corn and squash and watermelons. And the chief of the nation just sent them and gave them to us and said, here, we've had these for so long. And they're from Missouri originally 200 years ago, so Shazam.
We're going to try to develop that every year with the school and a project to try to, teach as a teaching aid.
It's a nice life science approach. It's good about agriculture, and we're in the perfect community for teaching agriculture. So it all ties out very well, I think. So
we recently have made contact with the conservation department through Jeff Durkin, who is our agent for this area, and going to do a natural area for here, prairie rehab, and try to get the look of what it was pre-white man around the base here. We're going to incorporate a waterfall to go along with the Ozark National Scenic Riverway. And so we're looking forward to that partnership up with the conservation department too.
Brilliant ideas. Brilliant.
Yeah, it's how ideas come out of Cuba. We just sit around and come up with an idea, and then somebody else says, I got a better idea, and then we say, let's hear your idea. And that's the way we've done everything, all the way from the Adopt a Highway to the murals to everything you see in Cuba. They all come from an idea. It's an idea. And that's where Glenn came from. He had an idea. And we're a great town for saying, what's your idea? Let's hear it.
I think our main thing is, it's not about one person. It's always about the collective coming together. And it's one thing that the Osage have asked us, how have you done this? How have you got everybody to work together? There's one thing good about Cuba, and that is that it's never been about one person.
It's the community.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It's how we do things.